Hi, this is Chuck Swope with Win Life Success Coaching, and welcome to day 12 of the 40-Day Gratitude Challenge. Today's lesson is entitled, Are You Listening? So let's get started. Over the past 11 days, we have focused on being grateful for your current circumstances and being grateful for the unseen through your eyes of faith. This could be a goal that you're pursuing or something that you're praying for. Here's a tip that may help you during the daily journaling. When you pray or ask for God's guidance for the day, wait in silence. Look to hear that still small voice. I encourage you to try it today for 5 minutes. Listen for what comes to mind. You can either do this before you journal or after. At some point in school, you were taught the definition of two-way communication. Now, when I think about communication, the first thing that comes to mind is that old Verizon, now Sprint commercial. I'm sure you know the commercial. It features this guy in glasses wandering the countryside saying, "Can you hear me now? How about now?" His quest for a response to his message is an attempt to engage in two-way communication with the person on the other end. Two-way communication is when one person is the sender and they transmit a message to another person who is the receiver. When the receiver gets the message, they send back a response acknowledging the message was received. So up until this point, if you've only been writing those things you're grateful for and have not taken the time to ask God for guidance for the day, you've only been engaging in one-way communication. You've only been sending messages. It's not like you've been talking to yourself, but it's important to thank God, ask God for guidance, and then listen for His voice. Sending a message and then actively listening for a response is effective two-way communication. Let's look at a Bible verse. 1 Kings 19:11 through 12. This is God's revelation to Elijah. Then he said, "Go out and stand on the mountain before the Lord. And behold, the Lord passed by, and a great and strong wind tore into the mountains and broke the rocks in pieces before the Lord. But the Lord was not in the wind. And after the wind, an earthquake. But the Lord was not in the earthquake. And after the earthquake, a fire. But the Lord was not in the fire. And after the fire, a still small voice." There have been times when I've wondered how the biblical conversations with God took place. Were they audible, or did they occur in thoughts? I believe the answer is probably both. Some people believe that God doesn't talk to us today like He did back in biblical times, as though God has been silent for thousands of years. How about you? What do you think? Does God still speak to us today? I think God is always speaking to us. The problem is we're not engaging in effective two-way communication. We're not in tune to hearing His voice. It's a simple matter of asking and then listening and waiting. It's a prayer and meditation. It's fellowship. Know that God is always trying to speak with you. He is interested in everything you do. Spend your day talking to God just like you would a good friend. Form a relationship. Make God a part of your everyday life. If you want to hear God's voice, if you want God in your life, talk to God multiple times every day. The more you do this, the more you will hear His voice. Let me give you an example. The very reason you're getting this gratitude journal is because of God's direction. You see, not long ago, I was sitting in a class in Toronto, Canada. I felt God nudging me to take action. The thought just wouldn't go away. So during class, I immediately sent the following email to Pastor Kirk of Braddock Street United Methodist Church. You'll see the email on your screen. Kirk, been doing some soul searching on things I've really enjoyed throughout my life. There are a couple of things I keep coming back to. Number one, I've really enjoyed playing and contributing in the church band. I really feel like it makes a difference. I've had a vision of helping to grow the church, and there is no doubt that I would love it to continue. Number two, I also love the feeling of public speaking. Thinking back, I've enjoyed the opportunity to speak to the congregation, whether it be doing those little 5-minute things I did at the beginning of the service, or the couple of times I've shared my experience of tithing. Anyway, here's what I'm thinking. If there's ever a time for a lay person to speak to the church, I'd like the opportunity. Maybe it's a time when everyone is out of town or other, you would know. No pressure, just putting it out there. Now here's Kirk's response. Let's have lunch or something. My first response is, what are you doing Sunday, June 17th? This was not a coincidence. Because I listened to God, I was able to speak to our congregation on June 17th a couple of years ago. In fact, you heard an excerpt from the sermon on day 3 called The Layman's Sermon. And I'm speaking to you now through this gratitude challenge. None of this would be happening if I had not listened to God nudging me into action. Understand, God desires to speak to us. The problem is within us. Are you missing out on God's best because you're not listening? God is more than willing to speak to us, guide us, help us. It's time to start listening. Be receptive. Take action on God's direction. After you finish your gratitude list today, and every day from now on, find a quiet place with no distractions. In prayer, be sure to ask God for guidance for the day, and then get quiet for at least 5 minutes. Listen for God's response. Whatever guidance you get, make sure that you make it a priority for the day. This is divine guidance. Remember, God knows what you need. Make this a part of your daily routine. You may find that it's a little difficult to focus at first, but with repetition, you'll get better and better. So let's make the following declaration. Say, "Dear God, thank you for always speaking to me. Forgive me for getting ahead of your plans or simply not listening. Today, I declare that I will make it a daily priority to ask for your guidance, listen for your voice, and then follow through with faithful action." That's it for today. We'll see you tomorrow with day 13.